27th, 2023. The Board of Education makes available at least one current copy of the Open Meetings Act, which is posted on the west wall of the meeting room and accessible to members of the public. Just a reminder to fill out a form if you'd like to speak later in the meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the agenda as presented.
Second? Thank you. Your votes, please. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? First up is the high school strategic planning site update. Mr. Suter, Mr. Voigt, Dr. Nielsen.
I'll come up, talk to you, and then got some special guests here this evening, so. They're itching to share. Good evening, how is everybody? Good. Let's give you the rest of those.
Oh, is that for us too? Okay. Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight about the high school improvement process that we've gone through this year. Quite honestly, I think we finally figured it out a little bit as far as how school improvement could work at our high school. For years and years, we've been doing school improvement where we've had a school improvement team, and we've selected a goal or two or three goals, and that team of teachers and administrators have worked on those goals. We have completed those goals at the end of the year, and then we share with our teachers how we did. There's some problems with that. The problems were that the only people that really knew what our goals were the people that were on our committee, our administrative team, and we didn't, in the past, maybe we didn't do a great job of making sure that stayed in the forefront of what we do on a school basis all the time. It was kind of like, these are our goals, we're going to work on them as a committee, and then we're going to come back at the end of the year and share if we've achieved those goals or not. So, working with Chad Dumas this last summer, we started talking about what we do as a school, a high school, that we're constantly working on different things to improve in those areas. So let's make those our school improvement goals. And let's look at how we could make a bigger impact and set this up in a different format. So what you have in front of you is our high school this year selected, basically we had 5 sub-teams. We had a PBIS sub-team who presented to you with Mr. Voigt last month. We had a Safe and Secure Schools sub-team. We had a PLC sub-team, a Career Technical Ed sub-team, and a Culture and Wellness sub-team. And quite honestly, when we worked with Chad Dumas this summer, we were kind of asked, what things do you work on as a school, and what constants are always going to be there to improve on or to have in the forefront? These are all things that we work on every year, or especially in the last several years with PBIS, school safety, PLCs, Career Technical Ed, and Culture and Wellness. And some of those are subgroups. So what I'm getting at is we took a lot of the things that we work on in little silos with different teachers and different committees, and we made those part of our overall school improvement team. I keep referring to Chad Dumas because that's where the idea kind of came up. I remember sitting in this room, right over there was a table, and Dr. Nielsen and I were talking with Chad Dumas, and we said, so we could make sub-teams within our school improvement team, and we could work on, instead of working on 2 goals in a year, we could possibly have up to 10 goals that we worked on for the year. And of course the answer was yes, and that's kind of where that took off. So what I want to also then share with you as a member of the PBIS sub-teams, on this sheet you'll see 2 teachers' names. You'll see Corey Wells' name and Emily Dean's name. They were members of our school improvement team who had an interest and were working on PBIS, which is Positive Behavior Intervention Supports. And they as this member of the school improvement team, took on that sub-team. And you can see the same thing happen throughout. Joanne Doyle Workman and Alex Weeks for the Safe and Secure School, Wes Garland, Zach Decker in PLC, Morgan Schultz and Emily Iverson in Career Technical Ed, and Ed Ankrum, Emily Drummond, and Aaron Hamilton in the Culture and Wellness sub-team. And the really neat thing, you can see the two goals, each group was challenged to come up with 2 goals that they were going to work on for the school year. All of our teachers in our high school were given a chance to sign up for one of these 5 different groups, and that could have been based on something that they had an interest in or something that they taught in that curriculum area. And I've got those groups on the back. You can look at how that all played out. So we involved all of our staff members. So we were very transparent in what we did. We didn't have that little group of school improvement and keep our goals secretive to some degree and then present at the end of the year. We were transparent. We set up a schedule where every month, at the second PLC time of the month, the sub-teams, led by the leaders of those sub-teams, met with that group of teachers that signed up for that group. And then the last Wednesday of the month, the sub-team leaders met with administration, and we shared out with each other as to how our teams were progressing. I'm pleased to tell you also that as you look at the goals, we have goals that are directly aligned with our high reliability schools, which is something that we've talked to you about before, how we're a high reliability school, high school. And they're also, and very pleased to tell you this, our goals are also directly connected to our strategic plan for the district. So let's just look at PBIS goal number 1, and then I'm going to have our guests come up and tell you more about what they did. But goal number 1 was to establish diverse peer roundtable groups to give students, paras, and other professionals a voice within the educational system. And where you see the parentheses, that's school improvement strategy 4, improvement plan 4, strategy 5, improvement action plan 2, strategic plan 2, and action plan 2. So that's our coding on how it connects back to our strategic plan. And you'll see that's done with goal number 2, which was develop a reward system for students following the Orangeman Code of Ethics, which our PBIS team created, and ensure fidelity to implementation of the system with staff. That's strategic plan 5, action plan 1. Okay, so that's kind of what I've handed to you so you can read it. Do you have any questions about that thus far? If you look at the paragraph on the back, this is why. Why did we do it this way? We wanted to build leadership qualities within our team members. We have school improvement team members who are great leaders in themselves. They're leaders within our school, they're leaders amongst each other, and we wanted to give them a chance to lead their sub-teams. We wanted to spark interest and involve staff in decision-making and working towards an area and interest of specific goal. Before, teachers knew we had strategic plan goals or school improvement goals, but they really weren't involved in the working of those or the creating of those or the success in earning those. We wanted to develop a better understanding of the school improvement process, have more discussions and conversations about school improvement at Beatrice High, and this sub-team's area of improvement directly aligns with High Reliability Schools framework and our district strategic plan working document. So I'm just here to tell you that overall, as the building principal, I'm very proud of our sub-team leaders and our sub-teams. I think what we thought when we started this last summer, it's a simple conversation with an outside person, Chad Dumas and Dr. Nielsen. I think that we said what we were going to do. And I think even within our district, I think the format that we've established is even possibly going to be looked at by some of the other buildings in our district. It really gives our teachers a chance to be involved in school improvement, and not just the school improvement committee, but all the teachers in our school in areas that they have an interest or, as I said before, that they teach in. So tonight, what we want to do is I've got Corey Wells here to share briefly with you about this PBIS team and their goals. I've got Alex Weeks here to talk to you about the Safe and Secure School subgroup. I've got Mr. Garland here to talk about what they did with the PLC group. Got Morgan Schultz to talk to you about career and technical ed. And I've got Ed Ankrum here to speak to you about culture and wellness. And speaking of culture and wellness, some of us just left the baseball game where we had a Beatrice High School staff appreciation night. So that he can talk more about the importance of getting staff involved in high school activities and events. Any questions for me? I'm gonna sit here, but they're gonna come up and present. I can answer questions at the end. Mr. Wells, you wanna come on up? Thank you, Danielle, also for putting the things that we sent you together on a PowerPoint. Appreciate it.
First of all, good evening. I'll make sure I introduce myself because I forgot to last time. My name is Corey Wells. As Mr. Suter said, I teach at the high school, I teach social studies, and I'm one of the chairs of our PBIS committee. So as he said, our first goal was to establish peer roundtable groups, and that's actually what we're calling it, is the roundtable student groups, trying to play on the Orange Men were knights, right? So the Knights of the Round Table. And so our goal was to create a very diverse group. We as a team, we sat down and we brainstormed students that we see leadership skills in, but kids coming from very different backgrounds. And when we say leadership skills, it's not necessarily that they're always using those leadership skills for good, but maybe if we can get these kids into one of these groups, maybe this can be that positive thing for them, that we can help bring some of those leadership out of them and maybe help them to direct those leadership skills in a positive direction. So we met in February where we talked about school spirit, and students came up with a list of really, really good ideas. It's amazing to hear students talk about like their own plans, and going into these, I kind of have my idea of, I think we might hear something like this, something like that, and then to hear what students come up with, usually it's nothing close to what I think they're going to come up with. And so there's a list of events up there. One of the ones that we are definitely going to be working on this summer and trying to implement, if we can next fall, is potentially rewarding students for going to school activities. And not just sporting events, but any school activity where our students are involved. And maybe having some type of punch card where if you go to 8 events, you get like free entry into the next event, or you get a t-shirt, or maybe get $5 to the concession stand, or little things like that, trying to give kids even more of an incentive to go to events other than just supporting their classmates, helping to improve school spirit, getting kids more involved. We also talked about, some of the kids were saying that they don't know when the events are until it's like the day of. And so one of the ideas, and I think it was our freshman group came up with, was if we have space in the hallway, maybe we have a really big bulletin board and we just bright colors, and it's kind of like an in-your-face, like, hey, here's all the events coming up, and we update that every week. And so that's something that in the future we may look at pursuing. One of the things that was exciting for me was after our group met, I put together a Google form, a little feedback from the students. And of the students, when they filled that out, the last question I had was, of these activities, which would you be willing to stay involved in? And across the board, they're clicking multiple activities, multiple ideas that they would definitely want to help with and pursue in the future. So that was really awesome. We also actually met just yesterday, and we had our fourth quarter meeting. We meet once a quarter, and we had the students. We challenged them with the topic of mental health and how we can look at and improve mental health for all people at Beatrice High School, students, teachers, and how we just help with our mental wellness and our well-being. And I kind of had a feeling going in, young kids, probably social media type stuff. I don't think there was any mention of social media in any of it. So that kind of amazed me. But our students really came up with some awesome ideas. One idea that we're going to already pursue, our seniors did a fantastic job of already laying out a lot of the ideas, is Mental Health Week is our last week of school right before finals. And so they already had a day-by-day plan. Here's what we can do that week during our mentor classes, what's already within our schedule, what we can do each day during mentor to address mental health and mental wellness for our students and our staff. And so we put together a schedule today. Ms. Dean put together kind of a sign-up sheet, and already by like the end of mentor today, kids were already signing up and they're wanting to be really involved. And we even have seniors, because seniors will graduate the day before we do this mental health week. We have seniors that are signing up saying, yeah, I want to come back and I want to help. Even though I just graduated, I want to come back and I want to be a part of this and help. So that's been something that's pretty awesome. A couple of other ideas that unfortunately the links aren't working, but our freshmen, they're a big idea group. We'll just put it that way. they came up with a really big idea, and I was kind of floored. I was like, whoa, that's big. They thought it would be an awesome idea to have a day where we don't have traditional classes, and instead of having traditional classes, maybe reaching out to mental health experts and speakers, and having a day where students will go from speaker to speaker and place to place within our high school and hear from mental health experts on different topics related to mental health. And they even put in there, which I thought was funny, that this is what everybody focused on, but they put in there almost as an incentive to encourage kids, maybe we can reach out and see if food trucks would come in and do lunch that day. And that got everybody super excited, so I thought that was pretty fun. But I thought that was a really awesome idea. Probably not something we'll be starting soon, but maybe in the future. You know, I mean, I think that's a big idea. That's definitely an avenue that we want to look into. Another one is we already have our Hope Squad. Our junior class talked about the Hope Squad, and they had some ideas and strategies on how we can better get the word of Hope Squad out there to our students that are struggling. And it's awesome to hear that coming from students, right? It's one thing as teachers and administrators, we're thinking about these things, but to hear students come up with these ideas. And yesterday we were very purposely very, very vague in our directions, really giving the students freedom. We gave them actual data to look at from our high reliability school survey. But then we let them go. We said, okay, here's your challenge, and then they ran with it. And so it was really awesome to see them. So that's our first goal. The second goal, we are still kind of in a beta phase, beta testing it. We rolled it out this month. You can see the picture of our cards there. So we gave these to our teachers. You see our 4 pillars. We want students to be responsible, we want them to be respectful, we want them to be learners, and we want them to have integrity. We kind of sat down and identified, and we even actually, Mr. Voigt put in a lot of groundwork ahead of time, going out to businesses and employers around town. When students walk out of the high school, what are characteristics you want to see? You know, and these were kind of the 4 big ones that we kept coming back to. So those are our 4 pillars, and so these cards we gave out to teachers, and we were
This right here.
Yep.
Each teacher got 2 of these, I believe.
Yep. And so if they see a student, being a learner, like kind of above and beyond, or being above and beyond respectful, we tried to make it as easy for teachers because teachers got so much going on already. They would check a box, write the student's name, write their name, and then they hand it to the student, explain to them, hey, I'm giving you this and here's why. I saw you being respectful, doing this, I really appreciate that. And then we have the students then turn that into the office, and then they can potentially be rewarded and have their name drawn. We're kind of seeing how many students we have.
We're gonna have a drawing tomorrow.
Okay. I think when I looked Tuesday after school, I think we had 12 to 15-ish names, something like that, or cards. And I know I actually gave out a couple. I didn't have my cards with me yesterday, so I had to hunt some students down today that did awesome things yesterday. So hopefully we'll kind of evaluate that and then hopefully make that a permanent thing next school year.
So both your goals have been met. Okay, congratulations. This is what that card looks like. Any questions for Mr. Wells? Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
Ms. Weeks?
Much better at talking to high school students than adults, so I'm sorry. I'm Alex Weeks. I teach math at the high school. So our first goal was to create a student ID that is utilized by students for lunch codes, attendance, bathroom passes. So students always have these codes with them. So what we decided to start out with was just to do a check-in, check-out students when students leave the classroom. Like to go to the nurse or to the restroom, and we decided not to do attendance yet. We're going to implement that next year. So what happens is when a student needs to use the restroom or go to the nurse, they check out from our classroom using the Chromebook. They type in their student ID, and then that goes into a spreadsheet that can be tracked by staff and administrators, and they can see where students are going. And how long they're leaving the classroom. So I think it has deterred some students from taking extra long bathroom breaks, things like that. And next year, in the fall, we're going to implement full on with attendance, correct? So that when students walk through the door, they will scan their cards, and it'll take attendance for us, and then same thing when they leave the classroom. So it's just helping kind of track where kids are and helping us that way, so.
And the safety aspect of that is if we would have an event and we don't know where students are, we could look at that and see the student checked out to go to the restroom, let's check the restroom, or to the nurse, or to a counselor. It's also, as Alex also mentioned, we've also found that sometimes we have students that will use, or ask to use the restroom to avoid things, or to miss class, and we've been able to identify a couple of students that have had to use the restroom every period of the day. And we've had some conversations with them as to, okay, we need you to be in class, that's where your learning's taking place.
So in my experience of it, like I said, it really has helped, just when I frequently am like, okay, well, sign out before you go, check out, and then you have to check back in. And I've noticed some of the frequent flyers aren't using the restroom and the nurse all the time. So it has helped in that regard. Our next goal was to develop a system that ensures the integrity of the BHS school safety practices. This is including keeping all the doors, exterior doors locked, individual teacher doors locked when they're not in their classrooms, and then also the paging system that we use. So what we looked at when we were in our sub-team is, if you look up there, that's our phone, and it has the system, that part's not up there, but if you look at how to actually make a call, you have to pick up the phone and there's a bunch of different buttons you have to push. And when we actually went through the process of doing it, and it's nerve-wracking when there's not anything major going on. And so we made a list to put in every teacher's room right under their phone. So it says, pick up the phone, and then, it says pick up the phone, and there's 4 different buttons you have to push. And it says exactly what to go through, so that in the case of an emergency, every teacher would be able to locate those buttons and, go through those steps. And we made that easier for teachers in that way. And the other thing that we came up with was this little folder type deal. So in every teacher's classroom, there's a red binder, and it was a pretty thick red binder that has it has elementary, middle school, high school, all of the procedures you follow for evacuations and tornadoes and all that. So what we came up with was just providing each teacher in the high school one of these, and every teacher has a window in their classroom, so it's located underneath each window, and that way it's just in the same spot. For substitutes, when we have subs, they know exactly where to look if there is if we need to evacuate for fire drill or whatever, they can just grab this right underneath the window. So we created that to make it easier for everybody to use.
That's just photos of all the students?
So it has the attendance, our attendance sheets in it. So I have pictures on mine just with all my periods, and then these are the red-green cards that we use. So when we go out, and we make sure we have all of our students, and we hold up that we're good. If we're not, then we put up the red. And then if we have missing students, we put it on here. And then I have a pencil, or I had a pencil, it must have fallen out of my bag, but I had a pencil in mine too. So easy access for everybody.
It basically took the information that's in a 3-ring binder, a red 3-ring binder that every classroom has, and applied it to the classroom, so that, as Alex said, sometimes when we have substitutes, they don't know about that 3-ring binder, or they don't know where it's located. This makes it really present and very, all the basic materials that they would need right there, close.
Great idea.
Yeah, it was a great idea. So both your goals have been met.
Yes.
All right, any questions for Alex? Okay, thank you, Alex. Mr. Garland,
Yes.
PLC.
I'm Mr. Garland, I teach chemistry at the high school, and Mr. Decker was the co-chair, and we took a look at 2 goals. We just tried to figure out a way how PLC can be used, and it's already used, but in a different way, advantageous way. And we had 2 goals. Goal 1 was something we didn't really get to yet, but it piggybacks off of goal 2. And goal 2 was use PLC time for reflection on learning walks. So we put together a document, it should be coming up, and it's a real easy document for the teachers to have in hand when they go through a learning walk. So the third quarter, we did learning walks with all the teachers, and we did it within our curricular areas. So science teachers would talk to another science teacher and say, hey, is it okay, can I come in this class time? Would it be beneficial for me to come to this class or this class? And all the curricular areas set those times up. And so they went to those classes, and we suggested to go like the first 15 or 20 minutes of class, because that's where really students come in, and then the expectations are set at that time for what's going to be learned that day. So the idea was, there's 3 things on there that you take a look at, and what's one thing that I see that I already do in my classroom. So it's kind of a support, saying, well, I do that in my classroom, that supports. And with newer teachers, that could be something beneficial, that you say, yeah, you know, I'm doing some things right, I feel like I'm doing some things good. And then number 2, what is one thing I would like to know more about? And some of the things will be brought up here on all 3 of these things, that our teachers filled out a survey for our team that we can take a look at. And then what is something I want to try in my classroom? So there's always things that we could pick up from other teachers, and that is the process of the goal, is to support staff through reflection on instructional models and effective strategies that we see that are effective, that, hey, I'm not doing that, I might want to do that because I see that it's really can be effective, or at least try it to see how it would work. So then we sent out the survey, and the survey, you know, that we put in questions, and this is from the staff, so 90% scored 4 or 5, and 5 being outstanding, and 1 being poor. What was the overall experience that you had doing the learning walk? 90% was a 4 or 5. So it was something like, at our subcommittee, it's kind of like when you have another teacher come in, you know, sometimes there's some nervousness there, could be, especially for, well, even myself, doing it for a while. I want to make sure I'm doing things right, and the students are learning. And we thought, well, we'll see how it goes, but it just seemed like it was something that was definitely positive. And then 75% scored a 4 or 5, that they observed something new in the classroom that they would like to try. And, you know, just, we can talk in our PLCs about things, but until we go into the classroom and see things done, then we have more to talk about and ask about within our PLC. In fact, the science group, we had a lot of things that we talked about, plus it piggybacked and linked into other things that other teachers do, and it was just kind of it was a spark for conversation about things we can do in the classroom and that. So, and then just some of the things that, you know, bell ringers that we do is a way to kind of get the class attention ready to go for the day. And then cold calling on students, question of the day, expectation of the day. If you look at the last one, what are something I want to try in the classroom? A small group collaboration a teacher would like to know more about. Weekly contests, stretching in the classroom. We do have 90 minutes of time that we have students, so maybe that would be something good to do some stretching and moving in that, and life skills, and then online note-taking. That was just a few of the things that was sent back in the survey. And then the goal number 1 was time to develop high-quality staff and provide ways for staff to share successes, collaborate through cross-curricular discussions. That was something with cross-curricular that we were going to do. We were going to start doing learning walks across the curriculum. So science and math, maybe getting together. English and Spanish, some of those common things that students are doing some similar processes with and going through. that's kind of what we came up with, and it's something that, you know, we can continue to do if the staff wants it, if they think it's beneficial, but that's what our sub-team had went through.
So how are these scheduled? How often?
We just did it the third quarter. We felt that teachers' time, we asked a lot for teachers in different areas, and so we thought we'd do it third quarter, see how it went, get feedback, and then go from there. But one of the questions is asked, you know, how often should this be done in the future if we would do it? And a lot of them said, you know, maybe once a semester. Some of them came back and said once every quarter. So that we did have positive feedback on, you know, how often this should take place.
Yeah, and maybe it also took place during the teacher's planning period. So the teacher could say, I'm gonna take 10, 15 minutes of my planning period and go observe Mr. Garland. And then did you collaborate with that person afterwards then?
Yeah, we did, during PLC, we encouraged during PLC for the collaboration to take place, and that's what we did. In the science group, we collaborated back and forth on what we observed and what we saw was positive, and that kind of sparked our discussion on other things as well.
Okay, any questions? Thank you, Mr. Garland.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up, Ms. Schultz. Couple more, folks.
Hello, I'm Ms. Schultz. I teach FCS at the high school. So our two goals, I think our first goal was to develop multimedia presentations. We have.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Neverby. I teach art here at Beatrice High School. The art classes that we have here include painting and drawing courses with Art 1, 2, 3, and Studio Art, as well as ceramics classes, and next year we're going to be even doing a sculpture class. Careers this is going to help you with are anything that is design-based, like graphic design, interior design, and so many others. Come and find out more about them next year.
Hi, I'm Mr. West. I teach woods 1, 2 construction, also intro to CAD. This class out here is real fun to take. You'll learn a lot about tools, the different equipment that's used in woodworking or construction. You can do reinforced math skills quite a bit. Also, these classes can lead into career opportunities in cabinet making, construction, any other trades within the industry, HVAC. You know, the CAD stuff can lead into mechanical drafting, CNC operation, and it also lead into architectural drafting as well.
Hello, my name is Mr. Johnson. I'm the teacher for the audiovisual or media class here at the high school. Some of the careers that you can get into by taking this class would include journalism, broadcasting, live production, graphic design, and video editing.
Alright, this is obviously your work supply curve, your supply line.
Hello, my name is Mr. Hahn. I teach business here at the high school. A couple of the classes that might interest you would be Intro to Business, Entrepreneurship, Personal Finance, and Accounting. These classes might pertain to you if you are looking to go into the business-related career field, if you're looking to manage your money a little bit more efficiently, or if you just want to be more involved in the market.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Hines, and I teach computer science. We talk about the internet, we talk about data and processing, so we talk about lossless data and audio, and we talk about making images, and we also talk about app development. So we talk about debugging, we run programs and debug those programs, and then also develop programs of our own. So we go through a whole process of making an app or several apps. And then as far as careers are concerned, computer science can be used in lots of different fields. In the future for you, you can use them as a data analyst, you could be a video game developer, you can also use them as software development and also in IT architecture.
Hi, I'm Ms. Schultz. I teach courses in cooking, sewing, and child development. And with courses in these career pathways, you can get a job in early childhood administration, becoming a chef, or becoming a fashion merchandising major.
I recommend this class because it is a fun experience for everyone, and it's great because you get to cook. And if you like food, you should definitely take this class.
Autos 2. Mr. Coles. I'm a technician, like an engine tech or a transmission tech or suspension tech, or they could be a service writer or someone that manages a shop for a group or a team.
So why should you take your class at MEETiNG in welding? Well, welding's a great career to go into. If you're one that doesn't like to go to school, you can get a welding degree in about 6 months, 12 months, for about $14,000. If you choose to go to school and get the education for welding, you can make anywhere from $50,000 a year up to $140,000 a year, depending on what you're doing. If you're really good, you can make up to $500,000.
Where's that
You gotta be really good.
I heard about underwater welding for those guys make the big moves.
Exactly.
So that was kind of the culmination of our first goal, which was to create multimedia presentations so that we could inform VHS scholars. So like we showed that to our middle schoolers so that they can kind of get that visual of what happens in the high school in those classes, so that then hopefully they can figure out those career pathways that they want to go into so that they can get started with those early in their high school career. Because like I know that I've noticed a lot of seniors are like, I would have taken foods 2 or 3 if I would have known that it was a thing in like these careers. So we wanted to get that so that then they can see that. And so that stakeholders can also see what's happening in our classroom so that they can see all those hands-on experiences. Our second goal was to provide high-quality, meaningful professional development opportunities for our CTE instructors. So I think out of all of our people, we had most of us go to at least some sort of a professional development. I think our woods and welding people are still working on finding some. I know there's quite a few summer opportunities that they are working on. So.
Questions for CTE? Thank you, Ms. Schultz. And last but not least, Mr. Ankrum with Culture and Wellness.
Good evening, I'm Mr. Ankrum, teach high school at the math. Our 2 goals were helping students gain resilience or grit in life, whether it was in the classroom, hallway, or outside the school. And our second one was to increase student and teacher attendance at school activities to help with the culture and wellness of our school. For our first goal, we brainstormed ideas of how to implement a program to help students gain resilience. Some ideas included, we were trying to find like a program, a model, or some kind of book. And if we found that, then we would use our mentor time to start some kind of process of sharing information or activities examples to kids. After some research, we couldn't really find a model or a program. So then we shifted our focus to our second goal, which was trying to find ways to get students and teachers to go to more activities, be more involved in school activities. We created a survey and shared that with students and staff. 204 surveys were completed. The 3 most attended events were football, basketball, and concerts. For music concerts would be band or choir. Students mentioned that they liked the themes of the games, and there were several comments about expanding that concept. There were suggestions of adding prizes, getting more information out sooner, expanding to other sporting events, getting more publicity out for students. Several students listed that they had to attend their events for a grade, which were probably the music event ones. Students mentioned that they attended events to support their friends, watch the games, and to be social. And some students did mention that the cost did affect them from attending. The committee thought that if there were dedicated nights, when we were brainstorming, we thought, what if we had dedicated nights for freshmen? One night for sophomores, one night for juniors, one night for seniors. Let them enter the game free, have prizes, activities for them during the game. And then this is probably, we were probably close to February when we were brainstorming about this and realized there was only 4 home basketball games left. So the window of getting that done was getting very small. We had the idea of prizes, maybe kids getting free popcorn, doing something to get the kids involved at the games. When the committee asked the administration about implementing this, we did have some questions arise. The questions, concerns include having, we'd have to have some more faculty there to help with monitoring the students, having extra staff at the concession stand, especially if we were wanting to give the kids the free popcorn or some free snack, and then the loss of money at the door. And we kept talking about this, and eventually it came to the point where we tabled the idea for next year because we ran out of home basketball games. The committee also thought that if students were out for an activity, they could get a free activity pass to attend any other events. There was a question raised from administration, this would be a potential loss of income. We thought of maybe trying to find a sponsor to buy the activity passes for kids. And this idea was also tabled until next year. So, you know, how they say you save the best for last. I can't say we were the best because we did not meet our goals. We did have a lot of discussion, trying to find ways of asking kids why they weren't attending the events. A lot of times kids said it was driving, finances, and when we did the survey, some kids, they weren't interested in some events. So we're trying to find ways to get kids interested in going to the events.
I would add that there were a couple basketball games at the end of the season that were sponsored by some local businesses that contacted us, or I think Mr. Brown maybe contacted them, and we did cover student entry into the games, and we did see an increase in students attending. So
one was district basketball, the North said they were letting all their kids in free, and then we
we did, and then and there was for some sponsors from some businesses here in town that said they would pay for the first 100 kids to get in or something like that. So we'll have to continue to work with getting more kids in the game and getting kids to attend.
And Mr. Wells made a comment about having that big poster somewhere in the hallway to let kids know. A lot of the comments came back that kids said they didn't know to the date of the event, of the theme of the activity.
Any questions for Mr. Ankrum? Okay. I guess I just would wrap up by telling you that we tried something new this year at the high school with a different format of how we do school improvement. I think the goals that we set at the beginning to try to get more people involved, have more staff involved, have more say in what we did, have a better knowledge of what our goals were, those things that were all accomplished. And we will continue to do this format into next year. I think one of the things we'll probably look at next year will be having some goals that have maybe some more data points connected to them, using our high reliability one survey results as kind of a baseline, and some of the results that we've gotten from some of the surveys we've given kids is more of a baseline, and go from there. So, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have a staffing update with Mr. Alexander and Dr. Nelson.
So we'll be very brief. Just wanted to give you an update. At the last month's board meeting, we talked to you about the openings that we've had here at VPS and just some of the struggles that we've had in filling positions. I will tell you that it's pleasing to me to report that there was, out of the 17 openings that we had, we've been able to fill all but 3 of those, so that's good. However, it's also a struggle to report that those 3 at this point, I have not a whole lot of high hope that we'll be able to fill them. Because they're very difficult positions, and we're seeing that all across the state. The teacher shortage is a real thing. And one of those positions is high school English. middle school resource,
High school resource.
and high school resource.
Elementary anticipated resource and high school resource.
Okay.
Middle school is filled.
Middle, okay. That got,
Yes,
all right.
that's-
That's good news.
Yep.
And we did, standing out at the baseball game tonight, we did,
Excuse me, what's filled and what's not?
So middle school resource is filled, and we are doing something a little bit more creative with that position, because again, we cannot find a special ed teacher. So that one will become public a little bit later as to what we are doing with that position, once that application is completed and everything is verified. But there's anticipated elementary resource, so we do foresee that we will need another resource at the elementary. No one's leaving, we need to add a position there just because of the number of special ed students that we will need to serve. And then high school resource, we need to fill that position, and then high school English language arts. Yep.
yeah, I wasn't counting the anticipated elementary resource.
Yeah.
So, okay. We've been talking with staff about our administrative team, I should say, about, at some point, hopefully, we can find a needle in a haystack, and we think maybe tonight at the baseball game, we might have found one.
Yeah.
So that's good. That would be one less opening that we have. But honestly, going into the high school English position, I don't know that we're going to find a high school English teacher at this point, unless we'd have a unique situation happen where somebody would be relocating into the community and be looking for a position or in the area that we could find. So we are, at this point, working on alternative plans to be able to provide the English core classes at the high school, and then what other supplementary elective classes we can provide, figuring out how we're gonna do that. So we're putting that plan together. In the meantime, if we find that other needle in a haystack, we'll be excited to fill that position. But I would let you know that the administrative team has worked extremely hard and quick to try and get these positions filled. And again, it's a situation that's happening across the entire state. It's not just Beatrice, so I would reinforce that as well. Any other questions? Okay. Ready for the next one?
Yes, next we will have administrator classified and other contracted salaries report. Speaker is Mr. Alexander.
Okay, so I'm going to take a little more time. I know Doris is excited to hear that because I know you like it when I talk, Doris. So.
Right, and I like to hear it 2 or 3 times.
Right, good. Before we get started, I did ask Jackie Bordenmeyer to attend, and I thank her for being here tonight. In case there's any any intricate questions that maybe I may not have the answer to, or she could answer better. So, and I want to thank Jackie for all of her work in helping with what you're going to see tonight, because without her knowledge and her experience, it would have been difficult to do this and maintain all the other things that are happening in the district. So, thank you. The negotiations team met on Friday, April 21st, and reviewed several different options for classified staff, administrative staff, and other contracted employee packages that we've been working on basically since mid-March, or I should say even February. It's taken a lot of time to do that, but the intent was with the same goal of meeting strategic plan number 3 that we talked about with certificated staff earlier in the semester as well, or earlier in the school year as well, and that's recruiting, hiring, and developing high-quality staff, and trying to achieve a comparable salary level of pay in their job titles. So keep that in mind. There's comparisons made, and I even heard the county supervisor today on the radio, I think, talking with Doug about how they've done the same thing at the county, looking at their salary schedules and what's comparable for similar jobs in the area. So Initiative 433 is also driving this discussion. Remember, that's the minimum wage initiative that was voted on in November. that increases the minimum wage to $15 per hour, starting, you have to reach that by year 25, 26, I think is the year. So it's gonna be an incremental process in which we get there. As schools, we're not required to meet that. I do want you to know that, but we all know that if we don't, we're not gonna be able to fill those positions that we need. So the $15 per hour initiative is also going to be a factor in what I present. Before we present the proposed package to you, or what we've done to reevaluate, I just wanted to take a minute and show you what the classified salary schedule looks like, so you have an idea, because I think there's a misnomer out there in the public that when we hire someone at $13.50 an hour, say, that's where they stay. And that is not the case. We have a salary schedule set up for classified staff or hourly employees in the same regard as we do for teacher salary schedules. It's different, but it is set up to recognize and appreciate years of service that people stay with us. And there's a minimum step at which they're hired at and a maximum step at which they max out at salary-wise. And we've made some alterations to that in the proposed package. So this salary schedule that you see right now was developed in 1991. So it's a little antiquated. It was time to make some adjustments and bring it up to speed with what jobs really are in these categories that we have here at the school. So,
And no one starts on level 0, right?
right, no one starts on level 0. That's just set as a foundational prospect for it. So no one starts there. Also, you should know that in policy and in accordance to this schedule, after 6 months of a probationary period that classified employee is with us, they get a salary step increase after the completion of their evaluation. So there's a 6-month, 2.5% increase that happens after a person's been with us for 6 months. And then they receive an additional step on an annual basis thereafter until they reach their salary step maximum. That's per board policy 4265. So they may get hired at $13.50, 6 months later, they may get a 2.5% increase, and then a year later from that, they'll get whatever increase the next salary step would be as well. Not everyone's step increases occur at the same time, because it's all dependent upon their hiring date. So that's an important factor that we have to keep in mind too. So now I'll transition you over into the proposed package that we have updated, and just talk a little bit about some of the details in the package as well. First of all, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see that it's broken out very similarly to the old salaries, to the old categories, but all the green areas are areas where we have made some adjustments or changes that put people into more appropriate salary classifications or job description classifications than they were in the past. So for instance, you can see that under financial, technology, and nursing services, we've added that and changed it out. Nurse used to be in a different category, so we put that there. In our instructional support, basically we're talking about paraeducators, and we've broken those out into the different types of paraeducators we have. And then also aligned their salary with the accordance of the job description or difficulty level that it might be. So for instance, para 1 would be a media para, a general ed classroom para, preschool, kindergarten para, but as you go down, their assignment becomes a little more difficult because the intricacies of the students they may be working with, or the job description may be a little bit different, so it goes down. So we've changed those up, tried to make them more concise with what education and instructional support looks like in 2023 as compared to 1991, and tightened up the schedule. The other thing we did was we increased where the starting pay is. So I guess the best way to explain this is that we didn't change the factor on the right-hand side. It's still a 2.5% increase at every year that you're there. But we did increase the number of steps, or the starting step and the maximum step, that of where a person starts at and where they max out at. So what that does for us is it allows us to hire people at a higher wage and then also retain them and keep paying them for the more years that they stay with us. So in essence, here's the highlights for this proposed package. First of all, it's a 5.41% total package general fund impact. Historically speaking, it's the largest classified staff salary package increase that we've had in the 5 years that I've been here. And I didn't go back to 2018. I went to 2018, 19, I didn't go back further than that. We've had 2.29%, 3.37%, 1.74%, 3.20%, and 3.02%. So we've really tried to beef up this salary schedule to represent an effort to meet strategic goal number 3 and push us into that, getting closer to that initiative 433. It equates to a 35-cent to a $1.30 per hour increase depending on the person's salary step schedule. So depending on where they are, if they're a new employee, it may not be as much, but the increase may not affect them as much as someone that's been with us for 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years. But that's how it works on the salary schedule. There is some news though that's important to understand, is that 35 cents now, it equates to a 35-cent increase now, they still will get that 2.5% bump in 6 months. So we did some calculations on that in terms of the number of employees that'll affect. There are 76 employees that will receive an additional 35 cents if they stay with us through that 6-month salary probation time period. So let's see, what else? There are 76 employees that will receive an additional 35 to 48 cents per hour increase or an additional step on their yearly review in 23-24. So that means everybody, some people could get up to a 70 cent, some people could get more cent raise per hour. An example of what this does to us. Oh, plus there are 25 employees that have been with the district for 16 years or longer that will be receiving service year steps. So that's a new addition to this too. We are calling service year steps. The lowest starting salary para position would move from starting at $13.47 on last year's schedule to now starting at $14.16. So that gets us closer to that $15 minimum wage that will be coming, and it also gets us more competitive with the market that we're in right now. Another example would be a full-time building maintenance worker. One position would move from starting at $16.41 to $17.24. So a year ago, they would have started at $16.24. With this proposed package, they'll start at $17.24. The last highlight of the proposed package is that I've talked about it a little bit. We add 4 service year steps at 2.5%. So if you've stay with us for 16 years and you're maxed out, there's a service step award of 2.5%. If you stay another 5 years, it's another 2.5%. If you stay another 5 years, it's another 2.5%. Up to that can happen up to 4 times. So again, it's about retaining the good people that we have working in these positions as well. Those are the highlights, but there's also more good news. Additionally, one of the things that we've taken a look at that we've tried to get feedback on and look at ourselves comparatively to other districts is that one of the things that it would be nice to offer to our staff is some paid time off. And this particularly applies to our 9-month school employees. So these are the people that start when students do and end when students do. and they traditionally don't have any benefits whatsoever. So we've tried to come up with a benefit that's a win-win situation for the district and for the employee. And so what we'd be offering is two paid days off throughout the school year. And how it would work is in the first semester, if someone starts up with us in August, or up till September 1st, and they remain with us through December, they will receive one extra paid day on their January 2024 payroll or paycheck. The only caveat to that is they must be employed and actively working, like I said, by September 1st. If they're scheduled for 5 days a week, they can have no more, they have to have 5 absences or less, so there's an attendance incentive tied into it as well. And if they're scheduled for 4 days a week, they have 4 absences or less. So that's throughout that time period of August to December. If they meet that, then they'll get a paid day off in the January payroll. I thought that would be a good time to do that during the Christmas holiday season. Same thing for the second semester. So same principle applies to the second semester. If they start with us before January 15th and meet all those criteria, then they'll get a paid day in their June payroll. So.
We'll let Jackie clarify something.
It's not a paid day off, it's
No.
an additional day added, additional day of pay.
Additional day of pay. Yes, thank you. So we're paying them more. That did sound kind of contradictory. Thank you for
Yeah,
correcting
that's
that.
okay. I was
I knew what I
struggling
meant.
over here.
I just didn't say
I was
it.
biting my lip.
The key factor, another key caveat in this also is that we've also tried to take into consideration that there are times during the day or during the school year where life happens. People have to leave 30 minutes early. So those, as long as, if it's 30 minutes and under, that they have to leave early for an appointment or whatever, the child gets sick or whatever the case may be, we're not gonna count that towards that absence, if they're scheduled for a full day. If they're scheduled for 4.25 hours a day, then it's 20 minutes and under, and if they're scheduled for 4.25 hours a day, then it's 10 minutes and under. We're not gonna count those minutes towards their absence. And that helps us to track it easier with our absence tracker. That is the classified staff salary package. So again, real quick, it's a 5.41% increase. It's $199,672 impact on the general fund budget. It's historically the biggest increase we've ever given to classified staff. Equates to $35 to $1.30 per hour increase, depending on their salary schedule step, and that can also be more if they stay with us for the 6-month probationary period. They get 2 additional paid days if they maintain the attendance incentive attached with it, or the attendance requirement attached with it. So we feel like we've tried to address a lot of the things that we've heard from classified staff that would be beneficial for them outside of just more pay. We tried to attach a couple days that would incentivize them and also give them reason to show up to work every day. So that's classified staff. Any questions about that before I go on?
What market comparables can you get for any of these positions? Are you able to get from other districts? Do you have some sort of database that you can pull from that?
That's a good question. I was wondering, like, how competitive is this, say, to other districts that are our size?
Great questions. Probably the most comparable is other school districts.
Right.
And when we talk about other school districts, in our area outside of Norris, in Crete, we're one of the largest. So when we compare right outside the area, the sheer number of classified employees that we have is so much greater than some of the smaller schools that it makes it tough to remain as competitive with them as what we'd like to be. When you start talking about other Class B size schools, then we're a little more competitive with them because they may have a similar number of classified staff as we do, but it all boils down to student dynamics. So we have a 25% special education rate, or 1/4 of our students are identified needing special services. So that increases the number of people that we may have to have helping in that service category.
I think the other thing that we were looking at is what can our budget bear? We knew that we couldn't do it all in 1 year, that it would probably take 2 years to get where we wanted to be.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing too is not only looking at comparable school districts, which for a lot of these positions, it's really not competing against the school district, you're competing with the local market.
Yep.
And so then, you know, nurses, for example, you're competing with the hospital, or even a majority of these jobs, it's local competition, and how do we compare there?
Yep. We, I did reach out to our local economic development and ask if they had that information, and they do not. They're working on putting it together, so hopefully next year when we're at this point, they'll have it together.
Well, and I think the other thing we have to remember, when you add up certified, administrative, contract, and classified, we're probably looking at $750,000 additional to our budget this year.
Yeah, and we have that
I mean,
broken.
probably a little bit more than that, actually.
Yep, we have it broken down for you at the end, but you make a great point, because not only are we competing with other schools, but we're competing with the businesses in the community, and they have the ability to grow so much faster. You know, if they're experiencing high business, then they can offer different packages and everything, so.
They can also charge.
Right.
They can ask for a lot more money than we can.
Yeah, I think probably one of the biggest things that we always try to remind our classified staff, people of, is we may not offer as many benefits, we may not offer as many perks, but the family-friendly schedule of education is probably one of the biggest benefits for working in schools that we have. And we try to continue to work towards that all the time. Great questions. When we talk about other contracted staff salaries, basically that applies to 6 people in the district that are in quasi-supervisory administrative roles, maybe without those degrees or without those requirements. But we have some of those people that we contract with, and their package increase will be at a total of 3.73%, or $10,005 budget impact. So it's only 6 people, there's not a big impact, but as with everybody else, we would be asking to give them 3.73% increase. And then that leaves us with administrative salaries, which were also discussed, and the package recommendation meets the same goal that we talked about with certified, now classified, other contracted, and that is to address the increasing lagging salaries in comparable positions across the state in similar sized schools. So again, it all comes down to comparing our administrators to other similar sized schools and what their salary packages are. So the negotiations committee settled on a little bit different thing than we've ever done in the past, since I've been here anyway, because typically we've just said it's this percent. And we've said that in the administrative realm, what we're going to do is look at those salaries that are not at the midpoint individually, and then if they are not at the midpoint individually, we'll look at what it's going to take to get them there. And then anybody that's at the midpoint or above, because we do have those administrators in the district as well, will get a 2.5% individual salary increase for where they're at. So that's basically a cost of living increase, and I don't even know if that meets that this year, but it's what we could, felt like we could handle budget-wise. So the overall package for administrators is a 4.13%, or $57,776 impact on the budget. So those are the 3 packages that we wanted to present and talk to you about tonight. We do have that all totaled up in a nice little pie graph, because I knew Janet would ask about it. And this is basically what the pie graph looks like, and how it's broken out. So we take what those total budget impact dollars are, we insert it in the pie graph, and you can see if your eyes are better than mine. Certified is the blue, that's a 65.2% of this total. It's $768,204 of a total budget impact for all four of these categories. 65.2% made up by certified staff. Classified staff is 26% of those dollars. Other contracted is 1.3%, and administration is 7.5% of those dollars. So, and the graph represents where the majority of the people fall. I mean, how many people fall into that category. The majority of our staff are teachers. So, obviously, that piece is gonna be a little bigger. Classified staff is the next largest group of employees. Administrators the next largest group of employees, and then finally, other contracted is not as many employees, so it's pretty representative of the way it should be, probably, of total budget impact. Questions?
I know at one point we had talked about, or maybe you mentioned that is there still the potential to offset some of this with some of the ESSER funds? Or was that a whole different conversation?
We talked about that as a possible bonus.
I have heard some
Yeah.
districts going in that direction.
Yeah. Some did go in that direction and use some of their ESSER's funds for either incentives or bonuses or other types of things. You know, that went, an example would be OPS. I think that was probably the most prolific one that everybody read about in the newspaper. And they did do that, and it went both ways. I mean, they gave some out, and people weren't happy that it wasn't enough, and so it's one of those things that we opted not to do that at this point. A lot of our ESSER's funds are now committed, and so we just felt like that wasn't the direction to go. Good question.
I think the one thing that, especially with the classified staff, that this at least gets us closer to moving in the direction in 25, I think it is, when the $15 minimum wage hits. So, you know, you would hate to take the big hit at that point because we could be looking at 10% or more at that time. So if we can take a chunk here this year, next year, and so forth, then that'll just be a less easier on the budget and less of a hit overall.
I'd agree, and I think we've got to take it in steps and stride and do the best. This for this year is I think it's you know, it's like I said, the largest package we've ever offered. Classified.
What was the reasoning behind exempting schools? Was it? Is school districts the only ones that were exempted from that? I don't remember.
I think there's one other group, but I can't recall what it is off the top of my head. But there were two groups I think that were exempted, but I think it comes down to taxpayer dollars.
Well, and I'm wondering if maybe counties and cities would be exempt. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, you know, there again, it would be taxpayer dollars that maybe they didn't want them to have to take a hit. And they're capped.
So essentially, in May, what we will be, you will see board agenda items that will ask for approval of the packages presented tonight. And if you have questions between now and then, please don't hesitate to ask.
And again, I think this also, without having a local market survey, gets us a little bit closer. Still probably a little bit under most local market data, but helps.
Yeah, like I said, I think we looked at what can the budget bear this year, and not knowing where the legislature's going to end up this year. Are they going to say you can't grow more than that 3%?
You know, because a lot of these positions, these people aren't necessarily traveling to Beatrice to work, you know.
Right.
It's, what is the local market?
Yeah. On that note, legislation as at a meeting today, at the stance meeting, and we had the NDE Finance Director Bryce Wilson present at the stance meeting today about what's going on with the governor's package, because we've heard a lot about it at the beginning. Now it's in the position where it's been talked about, but there's a lot of amendments being talked about as well. And where it will all shake out, we honestly don't anticipate knowing what our state aid will be until possibly mid-June, which typically, we've been certified a number right now. But if the governor's package passes, which it sounds like by all accounts it should, then that, we're operating off of a number right now that's been given to us that would basically help pay for all these salary increases. So that, when you ask how we pay for it, that would be one of the main ways. But there's also the 3% cap that's out there in a different bill that we don't completely have a grasp on what that's going to involve. Right now, it's been explained a total of 3% revenue cap. So that's all of your revenue with only exclusions including insurance adjustments and a few others. But basically, it's a 3% cap on your total revenue. So how that will impact is yet to be determined as well. But if the governor's package goes through and as it's been presented, that would be tremendously, that would ease my mind a lot. So.
We're ready to move on.
We are ready.
Okay. Next, we're gonna have preschool strategic planning site update.
Hey, get excited.
Jeez. I came from the baseball game just for that.
Yeah, I know.
They won.
Good.
It was fun. It was a great atmosphere. There were a lot of people out there. It was a fun. So I have a 30-minute presentation. So sit back, enjoy. Okay. I'll go. How about 5?
We'll see. 5 will make good tonight. We'll see.
I'll go fast. Truly, this year has been the best year at the preschool. I can honestly say the collaboration, the working together, the community that has been established has been absolutely amazing. One of the strategic plan points that we worked on was strategic plan 1 actually step 4, exploring transportation needs to create effective, safe opportunities for our students. We had kids on the bus for over an hour and a half, and we're getting to school 45 minutes to an hour late every day. And it just kept getting worse and worse, and I just said, okay, enough's enough, let's figure this out. So we had a big meeting in the boardroom, and it's down to kids are getting there 5 minutes late now. So that partnership with First Student, really looking at routes, and they did have their big manager there, so I think someone else, a new set of eyes looking at routes really helped. So kids are getting there, behavior issues are down, so that was really something that came from a PLC, that came from our strategic plan, that everyone worked together. So, see, we're already done with one of them. See, look how fast I talk. Another strategy that we worked on was strategy 2, action plan 1. Step 2, strengthen and reflect on current partnerships with community agencies who work with students. I think we can really say that our preschool does an amazing job working with agencies in Beatrice. We've done the diaper closet. I know I've talked to you guys a little bit about that, but so far we've had 63 users come to our diaper closet since November. So really, if you think about that, that's a lot of people. Our shelves are getting bare. We need to do a better job getting the drives to get diapers in. It's just busy, and it's hard for me to do those reach outs. So during the summer, we're gonna have to find some times that we can get it. Those bigger size diapers and pull-ups are really what is going very, very fast. Also, the Bridges Over Poverty. It's really hard to work with families when you don't understand where they're coming from. And so it's easy to judge, and it's easy to say, yeah, but I don't do this. That's not acceptable. We have to take everyone where they're at. So we did the Bridges Over Poverty, and it really did help open the eyes of our staff, both teachers and paras, to understand, you know what, it might not be what I do, but that doesn't make it right or wrong. So it was a powerful training. Circle Security, I don't know if anyone's heard of that. Circle Security is offered by our Sixpence Home Visitor. But what it is, it helps parents understand children's emotions. It supports their ability to manage their emotions. Really, the basics of it is, you just gotta be there. You know, we encourage, when we do Circle Security, to be a parent 20% of the time. Think about that. Only 20% helps a child be successful. And so we're encouraging them and showing how to be a parent 20% of the time. So it's been a great class. We've completed, I think, 4 rounds. We have our 5th round going. Karen has now just finished the Circle of Security for the classroom so that we can then give some more training to our staff, both certified and non-certified. The biggest, we did Petting with a Purpose, which for the Week of the Young Child, which is great. We ask agencies throughout the town, WIC, Best Women's and Children's Clinic, Mother to Mother, Teammates, Sheepgate, all those have a pull, so families are getting resources. This year we had backpacks for the kids when they came in. They filled it. It was a great time, and lots of resources were given to our families to understand what they have in Beatrice. Biggest thing that we have done, strategic, number 2, action plan 2, incorporate social emotional learning into the regular operations of the school. This is why we're doing awesome. Dan St. Romain, you've heard me talk about him many, many, many times. Dan actually calls us to say, how are you doing this and why is it working? Truly is helping teachers and giving them the tools they need to have the language they need to give to children to be successful. You've heard people talk about PBIS and the pyramid model. That was great, and that really helped us structure our school, but that tier 1 instruction is giving teachers the tools to help. Before we were just saying, here this is, let's make sure we do all these things, but we weren't giving them the tools. This course has done it. We wanted to see if it would be, the course is made for K-1-2 teachers, and so it was kind of a stretch to put it in preschool, but it worked. So then we're like, let's see if it works with elementary. So we had 9 elementary teachers that volunteered to take it. They absolutely love it. And so then this summer, we offered it again. In the summer, we have 13 teachers that are taking it this summer. Great basis to get into our new school, to get common language. So some of the powerful takeaways, we had the elementary and the PK come together and meet. These are elementary teachers, maybe one of them is a preschool. This has helped me become a more understanding teacher. It allows me to help my students build skills they're lacking. His videos help to understand students are low in behavior skills, just like they might be in math skills. Our job is to help students become productive members of society, and this helps me to achieve this goal. It's something that should be mandatory, because if you put in the work into this motion, the benefits really pay off because your students can become more independent. Being able to use strategies to help students understand why we do things for themselves and others. I love how the students remember the particular lessons that we have used, so that when a moment arises, their behavior, argument, or whatever, they can go back and remember what they have already learned. Many students that would normally throw a fit if they don't get their way will say, oh well, maybe next time. It's something you teach them. This is exciting part is that if these small lessons start, what's wrong?
I thought maybe I should take the class.
Would you like my password? You sure can have it.
I like it.
I didn't say that. We would buy you a course, Janet, if you would really want.
Yes, we would.
The exciting.
I already bought you a course.
You could do that too.
I thought I already did.
You bought some
In
books.
the foundation.
Books.
Yeah.
So the foundation bought books to support these. But the exciting thing is it's not fluff. It's not, it's easy, it's down to earth, it's applicable, and it's really working. So it's exciting that it started small in the preschool and is continuing to grow and blow, and so we want that to continue to go up.
And you had a 4th grade teacher doing this and was very successful in their
Yeah.
classroom. So it's not, when we were talking K through 2.
No, it's
and
working
going
4 or
down
5.
to PK, but we also have extended it, and those teachers are loving it just as
Yeah.
much.
More
I should have followed the Missy model.
I didn't think I was gonna have to talk, so I really wasn't that prepared. Because I thought
Do you have
I
any
would.
questions?
Yeah, do you guys have any questions? I would like, if you want to see it, so teachers, we do have a library of books that I bought with preschool money, and then we just asked the foundation for money, so we have another library coming. Teachers are using those books, checking them out. It's really cool to watch.
And we are paying for this training through ESSER dollars. So that is where some of those have been earmarked for this particular training to make sure we get staff able to do it. The other thing is, who popped in last week?
Yeah, Dan St. Marie just called and said, hey, I'm stopping by. So he came in just to check on us, to see how we're doing with the coming together of our buildings. He stresses me out, you need to do this and this and this and this and this, but he is here for the long haul, and he's like, I'm off for the next month, but you call me whenever you need, because he sees the promise and he sees how awesome it is that we're moving, and really, he understands that Beatrice is working, so it's a pretty cool thing.
Where's he at? I mean, where is he?
He's out of Texas.
Yeah.
He is, I've sat in on 2 of his presentations when he's been here, and we should invite you to come listen, because how he talks to teachers and creates an understanding from a different lens is amazing, and just, I mean, he's phenomenal.
Education background, or is
Yeah, he is
psychology or-
he is right now he's focused on early childhood, but he started out as a high school and not in-home, but facility behavior person. So he's worked from adults to kids, to infants, and he is practical. He's not like, well, just look at them and they'll, whatever. No, he's like this and this and this and this. One of our teachers explained his work as a baby of Boys Town and PBIS come together and create something that teachers can use. And so, he's pretty phenomenal, just that he wants teachers to be successful. He has ruined professional development, I think, for our elementary, because anyone that comes after him, he is dynamic, he is energetic, he has people up and moving. So then I had someone else come in February, and they're like, this is not good. And I told him, I'm like, thank you for that. He goes, yeah, I've heard that before. So he gave me some other names of people, but the information was very, very good from that presenter, but he's just dynamic and gets people to mind.
Thank you.
I tried really hard to be fast, so.
You did good.
I'm guessing that no one's here that will present to the public. I could present Marcus, obviously.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
You heard our group tonight, but I guess I just hope you all recognize that we're continuing to do a lot of different things. Like something I'd like to tell you about quickly is tomorrow at the high school, we're hosting almost 30 businesses in town are gonna come, and we're gonna have a job fair during our lunchtime, and all of our students are gonna get a chance to go in, and this is a partnership we have with Engage. So we sit here tonight and show you our goals. I guess I just want you to know, we're constantly doing things that could easily be goals, and connect back to our goals in different ways. So, if you have a chance tomorrow from 11:30 to 1, come out to the high school ozone. It's gonna be full of, community members, and we might even have some kids get jobs tomorrow, so.
That's great. Yeah.
But we didn't talk about that tonight. That wasn't one of our goals, but it's something and that's pretty typical of all of our buildings. We have goals, but there's other things that we do throughout the year that, maybe don't connect, or do connect to those goals, but don't get talked about.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 adjourn.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.
Would you like us to
And I sent you an email with it attached, and then I thought,